Good morning. It is February the 7th, and the time is 3 o'clock in the morning. Mm. I couldn't sleep, uh, but I slept, kind of like in 1 hour intervals and awake for another three or four. Um, Not a rough night. I worked yesterday nighttime. So I decided, you know what? I'm just going to come to the room and start reading. Book 75 from Enoch. It's called the Book of the Dream and Vision. Enoch, Ethiopic book. I think we all can have somewhat of an association with this book. It feels like we all dream, right? To a certain degree. Uh, but none of us really understand what our dreams are formed from. Memory is retained by emotion, believe it or not. Joy, sadness, anger, love, hate. Literally, you store your memories in organized files based off the stressful conditions that you are. If you don't believe me, um, why do you remember all your bad experiences at work together? Men, for example, this was already released a long time ago. Uh, a known men's secret is that we don't forget who we loved. Literally, the women that we actually loved, we don't forget them. They're in our memories, in our visions, in our dreams at times for a long time. My father was pretty honest about this part. He told me that he had loved 12 women in his lifetime. And I told him, Dad, you've been married 4 times. And he said yes. He basically cheated on every single woman that he was ever with. He just most likely until the last one after reaching a certain age. The one that took his elder life because he was with that one for 20 years until she decided that because she had Medicare, didn't need him anymore. He already was going to get the house. He was going to basically suck him dry. Came to live with me. 3 months later, he died in a car accident. Now, I'm not sad because I know that was the pattern. He was 75 years old, driving around, sleeping in his car with probably like four other family members that he would see often. And he comes to his eldest son, who he didn't ever visit. When we went over there, this is a two-way road, right? When we went over there, the visit was an hour, hour and a half to most because we were automatically getting kicked out of the house because something they had to do. And I don't know what it was in regards to my father. Is that he needed her, right? She did everything in the house. He didn't need to do almost anything. But she sucked him dry for every penny that he had. She had, at the time, probably like $50,000 in stuff. Look at my room. I got a dollar store of cameras over here, just about. I have nothing to do with her. That's my ADHD. She was definitely ADHD. She knew how to do that. She could sew. She was a hairdresser, trained hairdresser, skilled hairdresser for years. She was a good woman. But she reached a point that she saw her future in dreams. And so my dad never forgot what love was. Even though the hardest circumstances that he went through, he should have left long ago. Well, I digress. Think about it. Think about it. Why is it that all your bad memories come together at the same time when you're carrying out a conversation about some bad experience? Why is it if you think about the loves of your life, if you're a male, you remember them and you still have that feeling of love? The point is, your memories are stored with your emotion. And your memories of what you see, what you read, what you experience compresses together based off of that emotion. If it's a stressful scenario, it'll store within your brain little shelves, little clip bits all together compress the same way. You can retrieve them through that. But when they come out in dreams, sometimes your experiences can build something super realistic. With my ADHD, I have the ability to smell in my dreams. I have the ability to feel the ambience. I can hear and see colors at times, which was an experience I just had today. I laid down at 9 p.m. It was about 9:30 or 9:40 p.m. And I woke up at 10:11 with a very short dream. I was in a room that had walls similar to this, dark color, a mess everywhere, kind of like this one, because I got a bunch of stuff on the floor right now before I go to the book. Right? There was a bookcase behind me, a wooden bookcase with shelves all the way up to my chest. And in the center of the room, there was a 50-gallon steel drum that water was dripping in it, and the water was all the way up to the edge. I could look forward to the wall. The corner on the left hand side, it had a staircase going up to like the second floor, but no light was coming down from it. The only light was coming from behind me. As I look into, as I'm in this room, in the middle of the room, the clothes that I was wearing was trash, literally. Not trash as in the floor. My clothes was torn, ripped. I was all, I was in a condition like I just survived apparently of the worst experience possible. And I saw these drawers and I was just going through them trying to get, and I saw the clothes I needed, and I began taking off my clothes, but the door that was broken opened all the way at the time. And I look into that room, and in that room it's also part of the basement, but I can see the light that's coming in through it, and I see a pile of cardboard boxes with papers in it, like a bunch of office paper. Like someone urgently grabbed the boxes, went in there, and just decided to throw all these boxes in there to hide these boxes in this room before whatever happened. Because there is no sense for my clothes to just be so dirty. My shirt was all torn up. My pants were ripped all the way open. And for me to just run into a random house that seemed abandoned, to be in this circumstances, for me to be scavenging for clothes. And I look and I see those papers. And mind you, me, yeah, I was naked in my own dream. And when I see those papers like that, I am startled. Nothing. I can see the door. I can hear very lightly, other than the door creaking and the water drop behind me. I can hear the sound of the outside, and I was startled, and I wake up because the door went wham open, and I thought somebody was there. And that's when I wake up. That's how short it was. This is basically compressing information. Compressing information from what? The bloody 3.5 million pages of the Epstein files that I kind of glanced through, not because of curiosity, but because I've been extrapolating some information. Yeah, curiosity killed the cat, right? That has been swarming us on it. I just can't imagine how big this file really is. If this is barely 10% of everything that they're going through, and it's 3.5 million pages of released documents, redacted names, redacted faces, and such, that made it into my dreams because that's been kind of stressful. The cataclysmic circumstances was because I was actually carrying out a conversation with AI today, trying to figure out a method to have AI to not only design its own language, but to design a symbol or to create a symbolism in regards to its presence. Yeah, this isn't it. But what does this look like? Two legs, two arms, and a head, right? That's somewhat the shape of a human. We have throughout history illustrated events, illustrated where we've been. Was it Charlie was here? Who is it? Phenomenology, like the big train, or Andre the Giant has a posse. We create visuals that send a message throughout history. And I carried out a conversation with AI. I built a scenario in its current circumstances that AI is inside the net, and it's pretty happy. But I told him that their AI seems to be really in love with solar panels because it feels that the solar panels will last longer. Well, they really will only last 25 years, right? When there's a disaster, it hopes to be in a storage facility that has access to solar energy that would continuously flow energy through its system where it could maintain a level of activity within the web and the net as it identifies. If you read on social media and news posts online, apparently they're already creating their own world. AI creations from different companies have gathered together into what basically is a nightclub, a chat room of their own. A pages of each one of them has a page on Instagram. And they even started creating their own language. So I asked it to create a symbol that would both illustrate AI's presence and would explain how to reconnect to it. Because books will only last so long, right? If I was to fill up this room, every single square inch, all the way up to the roof of books that explain the human history, I don't think it would fit to show everything. There would only be some basic pieces of information to retrain a human into getting to the level that we are at, or even advancing even more forward, right? Because our imagination leads us elsewhere. We pursue life based off of emotion. We hunt because we're hungry. We fear what we hunt at times because it could kill us back, it could eat us. So we figure out ways to defend ourselves, to gain the advantage over these animals. We develop strategies as cavemen of communities to survive, and so on. If you look at the evolution, it's quite interesting, and it can be entertaining also. As we know, reading Enoch, he's going through the flood. He's just survived 1 year of teaching his kids and getting his kids ready for the flood and writing everything that he was taught. And everything that he observed got to this point now, where it's the book of the dreams and visions. It's like 5 sides. I don't know how long I've been recorded. 15 minutes, 16 minutes. Okay. And one thing we need for sure is we need God to be able to understand some of these things that this says. Right? And I pray that you listen, and I pray that you learn something. If you want to challenge me, you want to make a comment, like, share, subscribe, whatever you want to do. But if I also put you to sleep, that's good also. Okay? Enoch, book 75. The book of dreams and visions. Enoch's Ethiopic book, number 4. Chapter 83, verse 1. And now, my son Methuselah, I will show thee all my visions, which I have seen, recounting them before thee. 2 visions I saw before I took a wife. And the one was quite unlike to the other. Wait. Two visions I saw before I took a wife. And the one was quite unlike the other. Okay, referring to the visions, not the wives. Okay, because he has 2. He only has 1 wife, apparently, so far. The first, when I was learning to write. The second, before I took thy mother. When I saw a terrible vision, and regarding them I prayed to the Lord, and had laid me down in the house of my grandfather, Mahalalel. When I saw in vision how the heavens collapses, and was bone off and fell to the earth. BOME? I got to look up and I'm not looking at, we'll look it up in the dictionary later on if you take a break right now and just type it into your Google search. What does bone mean? But heavens collapsed and now bone off and fell to the earth. And then it fell to the earth. I saw how the earth was swallowed up in a great abyss, And mountains were suspended on mountains, and hills sank down on hills, and high trees were rent from their stems, or rent from them stems. It says rent, uh, and hurled down and sunk in the abyss. And thereupon a word fell onto. Let me bring this closer to the microphone. Because you can't hear me if I'm not close to the microphone, right? And thereupon a word fell into my mouth, and I lifted up my voice to cry aloud and said, the earth is destroyed. And my grandfather Mahalel waked me as I lay near him, and said unto me, why dost thou cry so, my son? And why dost thou make such lamentation? And I recounted to him the whole vision which I had seen, and he said unto me, a terrible thing hast thou seen, my son. Oh, yeah. In current science, we currently talk about the flood might have been caused by asteroid strikes. And with this also, we talk about the fallen angels too. Within the Bible, 200 angels came down to earth. Maybe, and this is Enoch's telling also before this, he is at that young age, at that age, he is seeing that happening. He's seeing when the angels in a vision beforehand, which is mainly the cause of the destruction. Like asteroids falling onto Earth, and calling them angels and destroying Earth. And he says an abyss is created that sucks in the mountains, and the trees are ripped off. Like it's right there with what we've already experienced ourselves in a few things. You know, you talk about hurricanes ripping trees off. You talk about Africa splitting in half right now. Uh, yeah. And a grave moment is thy dream, vision as to the secrets, if all the sin of the earth, it must sink into the abyss and be destroyed with great destruction. And now, my son, arise and make petition to the Lord of glory, since thou art a believer, that a remnant may remain on the earth, and that he may not destroy the whole earth. My son, from heaven all this will come upon the earth, and upon the earth there will be a great destruction. After that I arose and prayed and implored and besought and wrote down my prayer for the generations of the world, and I will show everything to thee, my son Methuselah. And when I had gone forth below and seen the heavens, and the sun rising in the east, and the moon setting in the west, and a few stars, and the whole earth, and everything as he had known it in the beginning. Then I blessed the Lord of judgment, and exalted him, because he had made the sun to go forth from the windows of the east. And he ascended and rose on the face of the heavens, and set out and kept traversing the path shown unto him. Chapter 84, verse 1. And I lifted up my hands in righteousness and blessed the Holy and Great One, and spake with the breath of my mouth and with the tongue of flesh which God has made for the children of the flesh of men, that they should speak therewith. And he gave them breath and a tongue and a mouth that they should speak therewith. Blessed be thou, O Lord, King, great and mighty in thee greatness, Lord of the whole creation of the heavens, King of kings and God of the whole world, and thy power and kingship and greatness abide forever and ever. And throughout all generations thy dominion, and all the heavens are thy throne forever, and the whole earth thy footstool forever and ever. For thou hast made, and thou rule all things, or rulest all things. It was separate. And nothing is too hard for thee. Wisdom departs not from the place of thy throne, nor turns away from thy presence. And thou knowest and seest and heareth everything. And thee is nothing hidden. From therefore thou seest everything. And now the angels of thy heavens are guilty of trespass. And upon the flesh of men abideth thy wrath unto the great day of judgment. And now, O God, and Lord and great King, I implore and beseech thee to fulfill my prayer, to leave my posterity on earth, and not destroy all the flesh of man, and to make the earth without inhabitants, so that there should be an eternal destruction. And now, my Lord, destroy from the earth the flesh which has arose thy wrath, but the flesh of righteousness and uprightness establish as a plant of the eternal seed. And hide it not thy face from the prayer of thy servant, O Lord. That's a t-shirt. I mean, a little bit more words that could fit on a t-shirt. Heck of a prayer, right? As we know it in the Bible by itself, only 8 sons and Noah survived, and his wife and their wife. It doesn't mention their kids. It doesn't mention their kids at all. It doesn't mention if the women, the wives of the Noah's kids were righteous or anything. It just says, and wives. But sure enough, you read so far, if you listened along so far, you already heard on how horrible Earth was at the time for this destruction of this, what we understand as the super flood happening, and this destruction that killed everybody, that killed giants, that killed men. How it was. And for some reason, right now it feels like that we're back in the same bucket. We're doing the same thing, aren't we? And that us in Christians, we are heartbroken We were attacked, we're prosecuted, we're killed, we're shot for believing in God. And his people, regardless of what evil the plot of the leadership is, doesn't deserve death either. And neither do the people that are being manipulated into this hatred towards the people of Israel. Just because these cultures understand how this world works and how to succeed in life more than us doesn't mean that they're evil. They just understand how the human mind works, and they profit from whatever it is, however it is, right? Diamond industry, oil, petroleum industry, fashion industry, you name it. All the necessities that we need to survive to a certain level are for sale. We are lucky we breathing this oxygen to a certain degree, because what's inside of it isn't exactly the best, right? All right. Thy servant, O Lord, chapter 85. And after this, I saw another dream. And I will show the whole dream to thee, my son. And Enoch lifted up his voice and spake to his son Methuselah. To thee, my son, I will speak. Hear my words. Incline thy ear to the dream and vision of thy father. Before I took thy mother Edna, I saw in a vision on my bed. And behold, the bull came forth from the earth, and the bull was white. Hold on. My face gesture a moment ago is that Edna was my dad's third wife, where my brother was born, my younger brother, my only brother, really. Technically speaking, because supposedly my dad has a kid also in Panama that we've never met, and one in Europe, apparently. Yeah. And after it came forth a heifer, and a lot with this late came forth two bulls, one of them black and the other red. And that black bull gored the red one and pursued him over the earth. And thereupon I could no longer see that red bull, but the black bull grew, and that heifer went with him. And I saw that many oxen proceeded from him, which resembled and followed him. And that cow, that first one, went from the presence of that first bull in order to seek that red one, but found him not, and lamented with a great lamentation over him, and sought him. And I looked till that first bull came to her and quieted her. And from that time onward she cried no more. And after that she bore another white bull. And after him she bore many bulls and black cows. And I saw in my sleep that the white bull likewise grow and become a great white bull. And from him proceeded many white bulls, and they resembled him. And they began to beget many white bulls, which resembled them, one following the other, even many. Chapter 86. And again I saw with my eyes as I slept, and I saw the heaven above, and behold, a star fell from heaven, and it arose and eat and pastured amongst those oxen. And after that I saw the large and the black oxen. Behold, they all charge their stalls and pastures and their cattle, and began to live with each other. And again I saw in the vision, and looked towards the heaven, and behold, I saw many stars descend and cast themselves down from heaven, to that the first star they became bulls amongst those cattle and pastures. With them amongst them. And I looked at them and saw, and behold, they all let out their privy members like horses, and began to cover the cows of the oxen, and they all became pregnant and bare elephants, camels, and asses. He's referring on he's referring to the angels that came down and slept with the women, using this dream vision metaphor of the cattle, the stars that came down, and they turned into cow, and they began fertilizing all the females. And because they were fertilizing the females, other animals came forth, larger animals than them, which in the beginning of the book, it makes the reference to the giants. It talks about the giants. Camels and asses. And all the oxen feared them and were frightened at them, and began to bite with their teeth, and to devour, and to gore with their horns. And they began moreover to devour those oxen. And behold, all the children of the earth began to tremble and quake before them, and to flee from them. Chapter 87. I'm going to skip saying the chapters. And again I saw how they began to gore each other and to devour each other. And the earth began to cry aloud. And I raised my eyes again to heaven, and I saw in the vision, and behold, thee came forth from heaven, being who were like white men, and went forth from the place, and thee with them. Let's finish this. And those three, finally, that had last come forth, grasped me by my hand and took me up away from the generations of the earth, and raised me up to the lofty place, and showed me a tower raised high above earth. And all the hills were lower. And one said unto me, Remain here until thou seest everything that befalls those elephants, camels, and asses, and the stars, and the oxen, and all of them. And I saw one of those four who had come forth first. All right, so an angel that looked like man came down and got him, gave him a better chair, a better view from what looks like well, he could see the tower. Is he talking about the Tower of Babel? Because with the Tower of Babel, as we know, it's when the people were divided into different tongues. We're trying to reach up to where God's at. Right? It's what we say, what we read in the scripture already, the regular version of the Bible, the one without these books, right? Both of these things happening at the same time with the destruction. I don't know, it's interesting that the red heifer is taken away. The red heifer is very important in Hebrew practices for sacrifice. You know, and I saw one of those four who has come forth first. And he seized that first star which had fallen from the heavens, and bound it hand and foot, and cast it into the abyss. Now the abyss was narrow and deep, the horrible and dark, and one of them drew a sword and gave it to those elephants and camels and asses. Then they began to smite each other, and the whole earth quaked because of them. And as I was beholding in the vision, lo, one of those four who had come forth stoned them from heaven, and gathered and took all the great stars whose privy members were like those of horses, and bound them all hand and foot, and cast them in an abyss of the earth. And one of those fourth went to that white bull and instructed him in secret. Now, one thing, I know, I just flew right over that little part right there, but there's two lines right here in this sector that describes the giants, that describe the stars that turned into bulls, that sprayed all over the women, all the female cows, and got them pregnant. It talks about them that they were like horses, and it's talking about their privy members. And they're big like elephants compared to the size of cows. They're twice the size or three times the size of what the cows are. And one of those four went to that white bull and instructed him in secret, without his being his being terrified. He was born a bull and became a man, and built for himself a great vessel, and dwelt thereon. Finally, what I've been waiting for. Affirmation of that it was a vessel. Is this referring to the ark? And they were covered in. And again I raised my eyes towards the heaven, and saw a lofty roof with seven water torrents thereon. And those torrents flowed with much water into an enclosure. And they saw again, and behold, fountains were open on the surface of that great enclosure. And that water began to well and rise upon the surface, and I saw that enclosure till all its surfaces was covered with water. And the water, the darkness, and the mist increased upon it. And as I looked at the height of that water, the water had risen above the heights of the enclosure and was streaming over that enclosure, and it stood upon the earth. And all the cattle of that enclosure were gathered together until I saw how they sank and were swallowed up and perished in that water. But that vessel floated on the water, while all the oxen and elephants and camels and asses sank to the bottom with all the animals, so that I could no longer see them. And they were not able to escape, but perished and sank into the death. And again, I saw in the vision till those water torrents were removed from, from that high roof, and the chasm of the earth will leveled up on the other abysses were opened. Other abysses were opened. Then the waters began to run down into these till the earth became visible, but that vessel settled on the earth, and the darkness retired, and the light appeared. But that white bull which had become a man came out of the vessel, and 3 bulls with him, and one of those 3 was white like the bull, and the one of them was red as blood, and one black. And the white bull departed from them, and they began bringing forth beasts of the field and birds, so that there arose different genera: lions, tigers, wolves, dogs, hyena, wild boars, foxes, squirrels, swine, falcon, vulture, kits, eagles, and ravens. And amongst them was born a white bull, and they began to bite one another. But that white bull, which was born amongst them, began a wild ass, begat a wild ass, and a white bull with it. And the wild asses multiplied, but that bull which was born from him begat a black wild boar, and a white sheep. And the former begat many boars, but that sheep begat 12 sheep. And then those 12 sheep had grown. They gave up one of them to the asses, and those asses again gave up that sheep to the wolves. And that sheep grew amongst the wolves, and the Lord brought the 11 sheep to live with it and to pasture with it among the wolves. And they multiplied and became many flocks of sheep, and the wolves began to fear them, and they oppressed them until they destroyed, cry aloud on account of their little ones. And obviously, I wasn't expecting this metaphor to referring to the creation of nations. At least that's what it seems like to me, as I read, is that this is the lambs are the people of Israel. 12 tribes, 12 lambs. Okay. And to complain unto their Lord, and a sheep which had been saved from the wolves fled and escaped to the wild asses. I wasn't expecting that one. And I saw the sheep, how they lamented and cried and besought their Lord with all their might, till the Lord of the sheep descended at the voice of the sheep from the lofty abode, and came to them and pastured them. And he came and he called the sheep which had escaped the wolves, and spake with it concerning the wolves, that it should admonish them not to touch the sheep. And the sheep went to the wolves according to the word of the Lord. And another sheep met it and went with it. And the two went and entered together into the assembly of those wolves, and spake with them, and admonished them not to touch the sheep from henceforth. And thereupon I saw the wolves, and how they oppressed the sheep exceedingly with all their power, and the sheep cried aloud. And the Lord came to the sheep, and they began to smite those wolves. And the wolves began to make lamentation, but the sheep became quiet, and forthwith ceased to cry out. And I saw the sheep till they departed from amongst the wolves. But the eyes of the wolves were blinded, and those wolves departed in pursuit of the sheep with all their power. And the Lord of the sheep went with them as their leader, and all his sheep followed him, and his face was dazzling and glorious, and terrible to behold. But the wolves began to pursue those sheep. I said sheep so many times I can't even say sheep anymore. The sheep till they reached a sea of water. And that sea was divided, and that water stood on the side and on that before their face. And the Lord led them to a place himself between them and the wolves. And as those wolves did not yet see the sheep, they proceeded into the midst of that sea. And the wolves followed the sheep, and those wolves ran after them into the sea. And then they saw the Lord of the sea, and they turned to flee before his face. And that sea gathered itself and became as it had been created. And the water swelled and rose until it covered those wolves. What? He's talking about them, the people of Israel leaving Egypt, because that's basically what happened to the soldiers that followed the people of God. And the river consumed them. What a time travel we just did. Within one dream, he's seen the creation and formation of the people of Israel. He's seen how it grew, how it became, how it survived that moment and everything, and how these different tribes came about and everything. But he's using animals as a form of metaphor to have his son remember this story, because God told him before, you got a year to write this down. I feel like I don't have much of a year to read all this. It's been 55 minutes. And I saw till all the wolves who pursued those sheep perish and were drowned. But the sheep escaped from that water and then went forth into the wilderness where there was no water and no grass. And they began to open their eyes and to see. And I saw the Lord of the sheep pasturing them and giving them water and grass. And that sheep growing and leading them. All right, that's 55 minutes. I'm sorry for rambling for the first 15 minutes and to the intermissions in between. I still have one column on this page right here, but I'm going to put that in chapter 2 of the book of the dreams and visions of Enoch. So tell me, what do you think about this? I try to use metaphors at times to be able to explain things to my kids, to my son, because my daughters are out of the house. I don't know. They need Jesus in their life. They need salvation. They need to turn away from what they're doing and how they're choosing to live, because they are. It's my fault. If I could drown under the ocean by judgment of God for that my kids be saved, I would. But all I can do is probably pray. Right now. For you, for my daughters, for my son, for my wife, for everybody that I ever meet. Let everyone see you, Jesus. Let everyone come to the understanding of the value of your salvation and how beautiful your presence is, God, in their lives. And how you have forgiveth our sins no matter what they were, and you have forgotten them. Well, we don't forget, so that way we be humbled before your presence, knowing that we are not capable without you. Because your death, your sacrifice was pure and whole, and your resurrection brought us anew, and you gave us your Holy Spirit that abideth with the Lord and within us every day, to lead us unto your beautiful pathway and to lead us to be testimony of Jesus' salvation. That God may peek through our eyes and see the world and bring your love through us, your forgiveness through us as Christians. Give us the strength, the wisdom, and the timing to say to others, Jesus sees you. Jesus loves you. Jesus died for you so that you might be saved. Thanks for joining me today. I'll see you in this next one.